Hey, Taco here. So here to talk a little bit more about how to read sectional charts so we know where we can and cannot fly. So last time we talked about the airports inside these magenta rings. They're uncontrolled, they're untowered, so we can fly into them. I would say with a caveat, check with the FBO first because some of them are not paramotor friendly. Even though legally we could fly in there, sometimes you get problems with county administrators and things like that. So always check ahead of time, even though the FAA says we're fine. A couple of things interesting about airports on charts. For one, you'll see the runways pictured as if you would see them on the ground. So the runway would actually face this direction, and then there's a shorter runway that runs this way. So the runways actually are pictured in the direction they are on the ground. So that helps you decide where to land or where to take off from if the wind is going a certain direction. Here you see the name of the airport, Woodward Field. It's CDN, which is in Camden, South Carolina. Some more information that is provided to you. There is an automated weather observation system at 119.975 on your radio. So if you have an AirNav radio, you could tune in and find out what the weather is. You have to be close to the airport to hear it, so it's probably not going to be as great for you as a paramotor pilot. However, some of them have phone numbers, and you can call into the airport AWS before you even leave the house and listen to what it's actually transmitting on the air, which is kind of neat. This number, 303, this is the elevation of the field above sea level. So if you're flying from one airport to the other, and they have vastly different altitudes of the ground or elevations, then you'll be able to tell. So sometimes you take off from one airport on Gaggle and land at another one, and it says you're negative 150 feet or something like that. This L is telling you the longest runway is 50, so it's how many hundreds of feet. The longest runway is 5000 or 5,000 feet. And finally, this last one, 123.0, that is your common traffic advisory frequency. So that's the frequency you would want to dial in before you reach the airport, so you can let everybody else know that you're coming through or that you are what you're planning to do. So, around the airport, we have several towers, like we talked about before. So there's a lot of towers. And then a couple other things you can use to help you navigate. Remember, we have to navigate with visual reference to the ground. This long symbol here with the little teepee looking things, or sprinklers, these are actually high voltage transmission lines. Generally, they have a very wide easement running under them, or a very wide cleared area. So they almost look like you could land there. And you really can't see the power lines till you get close to the ground. So if you have an engine out, that's not a great place to land, because you might wind up in a 200 or 500,000 volt power line. So not a great place to land. Railroad tracks, black line with hash marks across it every so often. So railroad tracks, sometimes they're great to follow in highly forested areas. They can actually hide. Railroad tracks are smaller than your average, like one lane of highway traffic. So a highway lane is about 12 to 14 feet wide. Your railroad tracks are even smaller, so the cleared area, they can easily hide in trees. Now, if you're out west where you're going over rocky fields or whatever, or even alongside a cleared farmer's field, you're okay. But in more forested areas, sometimes railroad tracks are hard to follow. Of course, lots of creeks, but unless it's a large river, again, like railroad tracks, they can hide. A skinnier creek or a very small river can actually, the trees actually grow over the top of it, and it can be very hard to see from the air. I love high voltage power lines because they're very obvious. So that's a few more things you can that will help you navigate around. Again, there's a lake south of this airport, so you'll be able to see that. And finally, this red flag here is a navigation aid. So basically, if you were talking to air traffic control at, say, the Columbia Airport, you could say, hey, I'm passing over Camden. So sometimes people will use these to navigate. I don't see any more red flags out here, but just be aware that when you're flying your paramotor, People that are navigating by pilotage instead of deduced reckoning or something, or using a GPS, they might set it to go to they might figure out they're going to Camden and then they're going to turn north and go somewhere else. So these places with these red flags are places that you might see more general aviation traffic as they navigate from place to place. So watch on your sectional charts for these. That WIS TV antenna that I talked about last time is one of these red flag areas that is a navigation aid. So watch for that, but otherwise, thanks for listening again, and navigate safely so you don't wind up in an area you shouldn't be, and then always look for outs. Always look for somewhere to land just in case your motor quits. Because the one thing you don't want to do is violate rule 1. Don't go splat.